September 13, Alvin Labara, commander of the Bantag City Jail Gang, was seen entering past 3 p.m. He entered the inner control gate where it is said that he spoke with Bucor Deputy Security Officer Ricardo Zulueta. This is part of the CCTV footage that the NBI is reviewing.
Looking at the CCTV footages, pwede rin natin masabi na without a doubt, tama talaga yung sinasabi ng ating mga PDLs.
An affidavit of one of the prisoners says that they were called by Zulueta to talk about the order to kill broadcaster Percy Lapid. The sworn affidavits of those who confessed to be involved in the crime became the basis for Tuesday's filing of charges against suspended Bucor Chief Gerald Bantag, Zulueta, and 10 other prisoners. The Justice Department is already preparing a whole departure order against Bantag.
I hope they just cooperate kasi flight is an indication of guilt. Pag hindi sila nag-submit sa preliminary investigation, ibig sabihin may tinatago sila. Marami silang sinabi sa media, but hindi nila sabihin sa piskal.
Lapid's brother, Roy Mabasa, pointed out that Zulueta was the missing link. This as no witness said that Bantag directly ordered them to kill Lapid. It is worth noting that Bantag and Zulueta have shared controversial cases in the past. The two were both charged with multiple homicide for the deaths of 10 inmates in a grenade explosion at the Parañaque City Jail in 2016. Both were later acquitted by the courts for lack of evidence. But speaking on 1PH sa totoo lang, Mabasa also said that they aren't ruling out a bigger mastermind behind the killing of his brother.
Yung possibility na hindi po natitigil kay Director Bantag yung mastermind. Yung posibilidad na merong iba pang mastermind is so big.
Some are floating the name of former President Rodrigo Duterte, given that he assigned Bantag as Bucor chief back in 2019. The Justice Secretary, however, dismissed the speculations, saying that this must be backed by evidence.
Malayo malayo hindi Iba to we're talking about following the money and following the conversations. Wala you're gonna bring it to that level. Politika na yan.
For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
Now, before serving at the Bucor, Gerald Bantag has been making a name for himself as a swashbuckling prisons chief in Metro Manila. Here's what we know. Gerald Kitaleg Bantag was a graduate of the Philippine National Police Academy Kaagapay class of 1996. Bantag served as jail warden for 5 Metro Manila cities: Valenzuela, Navotas, Malabon, Manila, and Parañaque. He has carved a controversial career over the last 26 years. In August of 2007, Bantag was charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to kill a teenager. The victim allegedly witnessed him firing his gun at a lamppost in Caloocan. Now, at the time, Bantag was still a chief inspector and BJMP chief of Navotas. The complaint did not prosper. Then, in 2014, as jail warden of Malabon, Bantag was accused of illegal discharge of firearm in a restaurant where he and his colleagues were drinking. He supposedly fired his gun after an argument over the bill. Bantag was also charged with multiple homicide for the deaths of 10 inmates in a grenade explosion at the Parañaque City Jail in 2016. The inmates supposedly plotted to take Bantag hostage in a bid to escape the facility. The case was dismissed in 2020 for lack of evidence. Bantag was serving as the regional director of BJMP Mimaropa when former President Rodrigo Duterte appointed him as the Bucor chief in 2019. He replaced Nicanor Faeldon, who was forced to resign due to the good conduct time allowance scandal in Bilibid.
Here to share the latest on the internal cleansing within the Bureau of Corrections, we have with us Bucor Officer in Charge, Gregorio Katapang Jr. Good evening, Mr. Katapang. Welcome to the big story.
Hi, good evening to everyone.
Magandang gabi po. Sir, without jumping to any conclusion or casting any judgment of guilt in anybody, and in fact going beyond this particular case, the prevailing conclusion in the public is basically na may sindikato sa loob ng mga preso natin and involving, for that matter, Bucor officials. Is this a reasonable thing for people to be proceeding from and assuming And what do you think we can do about it?
Well, there's an ongoing investigation because after I finish my mission to produce all the inmates needed by the NBI for investigation, I am now again tasked or given a bigger task by no less than our Honorable Secretary, Boying Remulla, to unmask the syndicate inside the Bucor. And this will be a heavy job again. But meron akong leads and I'm prepared to make the report to the Secretary in due time. Maybe give me 1 week. Thank you.
What changes po can we expect with the Bucor, especially given not just the recent findings, but given that this, as we said, are things that have been on the public mind and even in some government officials' words for a long time, even prior to this case?
Of course, I have to put a closure on these issues, no? And right now, even I'm now taking over, some of these people are really trying to do more damage to themselves, no? For example, I will file criminal cases against a person who I thought was a good guy, but unfortunately, he was the one who removed or deleted some of our video copies in our operations room. And then I will also have to investigate the forced retirement of some of the Bucor personnel. And then, of course, the forced payment of JSIS loan of Bucor personnel, and then transferring it to a private lending company.
Sir,
And then, of course, I have to dispose also about to undertake the disposal or disposition of the unclaimed cadavers namin, numbering about 176. Na they're still there in the Eastern Funeral Services. So these are the things that I have to address. But looking forward, I'm installing the K9 units in the Bucor together with the CCTV cameras and scanners. Unfortunately, yung mga importanteng lugar na dapat may CCTV, wala.
Sir, which
And then, of
begs,
course,
which begs the question po, why now? Why are all these issues coming to light right now? And it seemed, Paul, you mentioned earlier, you're a little bit surprised. Or has this been deep-seated problems already? Is there any indication that this would have come to the fore at one point or another?
sorry, kaya nga part yan ng investigation. Was this deliberately made so that we will not see or they will be blinded of whatever is happening here in the Bucor?
Sorry, clarify ko lang po, ito pong deleted recordings from the CCTV. This pertains specifically to the current case that we're all looking at?
No, these were, or maybe perhaps it is related. We will further investigate. Ano ba yung portion na dinilit niya? Because we are now looking backwards on the CCTV footages and finding out, di ba, inimbestigahan natin kung paano nakapasok yung mga kontrabando. So, we are looking back. So, kailan ba ito na ipasok? So, may CCTV records naman yan eh. So, unfortunately, this guy came in and deleted some of the portions that we have recorded. So, that might be also it will have to be investigated also.
Habang iniimbestigahan po natin itong kaso ngayon na dinalatag kay General Bantag, the things that you've been listing, walang CCTV cameras, apparently deliberately turned off, mga tao labas-pasok, mga bangkay na hindi nila mapangalanan, na unclaimed, improperly handled. At the very least, would you say that there is a strong case to be made of criminal negligence on the part of the leadership of the Bucor, in particular General Bantag?
Well, hopefully we will complete our findings kasi meron pa kaming ongoing investigation on the quarrying inside the Bucor, beside the director's quarters. No? So, parang may naghanap pa ng Yamasita treasure dito. So, these are things that we are unearthing right now, and hopefully we can put all these things together and come up with a report to be submitted to our secretary.
Okay, so looking forward po to those findings you mentioned. Give you a week, no? Thank you, Bucor OIC Gregorio Catapang Jr. Now, after the break, we will discuss the latest unemployment figures with Partido Manggagawa's Wilson Fortaleza. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You found that 98% of companies reported a breach. That is a staggering number. Walk that out for us a bit.
That is actually validates our thesis. We were suspecting that almost all of the organizations in the world has already been infiltrated. And what people reported was that 98% of the companies had at least one cyber breach. And what is also interesting is that 76% of the organizations said that they would pay for ransomware to get rid of this problem. That's how low the confidence is.
So how are companies responding to these threats? Are they ready?
I don't think everyone is ready. Even though there is a partnership, private and public, Biden administration put together a zero trust framework. Companies are looking at it, they're spending money, they are getting prepared. But this problem is huge. Ransomware is the single largest threat to our economy. And everybody is saying that, how do I keep my business going? What do I make sure do to make sure that we are not only preventing and detecting these attacks, but also create resiliency where in spite of an attack, I can keep going.
So there's an ongoing war on Ukraine. You've got instability at Twitter, which is a major platform. You've got midterm elections coming up here in the United States. Are you expecting the threats to ratchet up? And how do companies respond?
Threats are definitely increasing. Geopolitical situation. You have nation state actors that are taking sides. You have, again, midterm coming up. We have cyber warfare going on. I think in this situation, businesses have to really think that attacks will happen. There is no way to prevent it. How do they keep going in spite of an attack? How do they create a resiliency plan? How do they make sure that they recover from it? And that's where companies are investing money. And we are seeing in our own market where recovery, ability to identify what part of their data was impacted and how to get rid of bad content and recover good content fast is what everyone is focused on.
Is public-private engagement between, for example, the Biden administration and the private sector, is that helping, or do we need to see more?
We definitely need to see more here, but it is a great.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Now, more Filipinos have dropped out of the labor force in September due to the opening of classes. A labor group is also appealing for a 100 peso minimum wage hike across the board amid rising inflation. Shaila Francisco with the story.
The national labor force declined by close to 500,000 in September, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Bulk of those who got out are individuals ages 15 to 24 and 25 to 34.
September kasi start na ng opening ng classes at yung ating citizens na they decided prior to join the labor force, available sila for job. Yung nakita namin na karamihan sa kanila ay bumalik sa eskwela. Yung sa September, schooling 41%, and then household duties, family duties 31% to help sa household work.
This explains why there was a decline among employed and unemployed Filipinos. Underemployment, meanwhile, continued to increase in September. The National Economic and Development Authority notes more individuals sought to earn additional income amid inflation. Paul, for one, is juggling 2 jobs, being a retailer in the morning and a security guard at night. He says his income as a security guard is not enough to pay bills and the tuition of his sibling.
Para hindi po kakapusin kahit sa pagkain lang. Malaking bagay po talaga. Nakakadagdag gastusin sa bahay. Pinapadala po sa kapatid ko sa probinsya, nag-aaral po.
Currently, the minimum wage is at 570 pesos after a hike of 33 pesos was approved last June. But data from the Bangko Sentral and the National Wages and Productivity Commission show that the real wage, or the wage adjusted for inflation, is at 500 pesos and 44 centavos. This means that around 70 pesos has been eroded considering the 6.9% inflation in September. But Labor Group Partido Manggagawa says that if we account for October inflation, the actual minimum wage value is much lower. That's why the group is appealing to increase wages by 100 pesos across the board.
Ang wage increase natin kapag regional wage work yearly, di ba? Unless may supervening event. Ang inflation, supervening event, lahat ito, di ba? So hindi ito pwedeng magpahintay ng panibagong taon para pag-usapan ulit.
The NEDA, for its part, says subsidies will still be provided to help protect the purchasing power of Filipinos. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
Talk more about their appeal. We have Partido Manggagawa Deputy Secretary General Wilson Fortaleza. He's joining us live via Zoom. Good evening, Mr. Fortaleza. Welcome po to the big story.
Good evening, Rob. Good evening, Dan. Magandang gabi po sa ating mga taga-subaybay.
Sir, balikan lang po natin yung 100 peso wage hike across the board na hinihingi nyo. No? Maybe just explain to everyone, what does the 100 pesos represent for the lives of minimum wage earners?
Remember, Rob, when adjusted to inflation, and the latest was the 7.7 by October, so we lost, workers lost at least 76 pesos. Mm-hmm. When adjusted to inflation. But in another way, the same report by the Philippine Statistics Authority says that the 1 peso today is equal only to 87 centavos. So in both ways, you multiply 570 minimum wage by 0.87%, then the result is almost the same. So kaya 76 pesos ang nawala. Ngayon, remember that there was a wage increase of 33 pesos in June. No? So nung June, 537 lang dati ang minimum wage natin dito sa NCR. So nagdagdag ng 33 pesos nung June. Yung 33 pesos na yun na-wipe out na. No? Na-wipe out na siya. So meaning, na-wipe out na yung dating increase, tapos tuloy-tuloy itong inflation natin, so lalong nabaon sa kahirapan itong mga manggagawa natin. And also remember na prior to the onset of the inflation, dati pa naman ito, Rob, na ang level ng wages natin, majority of our workers are receiving what we consider as starvation wages. Yeah. No? Kasi ang minimum wage natin ngayon, if we compute it, for example, if we compute it monthly, ang minimum wage natin na 570 pesos, 12,000 lang. The same amount ng poverty threshold natin ng 2018.
Malinaw naman po yung pagkakalatag nyo ng kaso nyo. I mean, the argument seems very, very, very clear. Notwithstanding that, what are your actual expectations as you advocate for this across-the-board wage hike?
Yes. Why across the board? Kasi pare-pareho lang naman nila. Inflation hits everybody, but it hits harder, no? Hardest hit itong mga mas mabababa ang sweldo dahil kulang na yung kanilang kinikita. So, Ang tawag lang namin dito, Rob, dan wage recovery pa lamang ito. Meaning nire-recover pa lang. Yung demand for 100 pesos ay wage recovery pa lamang. Hindi pa nagde-demand ang mga manggagawa ng fair share niya sa economic growth ng bansa na sa nakalipas na 15 years ay nag-double yung labor productivity ng more than 50%. Yet yung value ng real wages natin ay flat for the same throughout that year. So hindi pa tayo naghahabol nung fair share, recovery pa lamang ito. Nakakalungkot lang, nire-reject mismo ito ng mga negosyante at tahimik pa ang ating gobyerno dito sa issue ito ngayon.
Okay. But sir, ano po yung likelihood na ma-approve po ito? Have you been able to discuss with the DOLE? How agile is the DOLE in changing the minimum wage each time na nag-iiba po yung inflation print from month to month? Hindi ba po if bumaba naman yung inflation, which they're saying is temporary and will reach the peak by the end of the year, baka wala na pong need to hike for them?
Gaya na nasabi ko kanina, medyo tahimik ang government natin dito. It never was wage increase was the agenda of the recent LEDAC meeting, no? Ang alam natin kasi kapag may supervening event, pwedeng i-adjust ito. Pero very seldom na nangyari sa history natin sa Pilipinas na ang wages ay na-adjust as a consequence ng rise in inflation. Masyadong matagal, masyadong malayo ang agwat at mababa din ang binibigay ng wage boards natin sa mga demand for wage increase. So hindi talaga nakakahabol. So all the time, workers' wages just keep on chasing the movement of prices rather than nagbe-benefit sila doon sa kanilang productivity. Naghahabol lang tayo lagi. Hindi ito demand para yumaman ang manggagawa o maluwan ang buhay ng manggagawa. Demand itong 100 nito para lang niya mabawi yung dapat ay ini-enjoy niya ngayon pero napunta lang sa epekto ng inflation.
Okay, Mr. Fortaleza, maraming salamat po. Partido Manggagawa Deputy Secretary General Wilson Fortaleza. And still to come, preparations for the 2022 bar examinations are now in full swing. We will look into that and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
The creator economy is booming. Billions of videos, massive brand deals, multi-millionaire influencers. It's a $100 billion economy that didn't exist 20 years ago. So how did the creator profession grow so incredibly fast? It all comes down to money. Let's go back to 2007. YouTube had just sold to Google and broke into pop culture. Some YouTubers had millions of views, and Google was ready to turn that into a commercial business. But many viewers weren't ready for commercials. In fact, YouTube creators chose not to run money-making ads on their videos because fans hated them so much.
At that time of YouTube, there was no such thing as an ad revenue split. There weren't such things as ads on YouTube. It was a totally ad-free website, and they basically explained, what would happen. There'd be like a rev split. There was no such thing as like a pre-roll or a mid-roll or a post-roll. It was just a little pop-up at the bottom. And at that time, we were a little bit worried that our fan base would call us sellouts for having an ad pop-up on the bottom of the video. And they did. I still had my part-time job at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was going to community college and living in my parents' house. We were getting some crazy views on videos, but at that time it was just like, okay, this is cool and there's something here, but there's no money here yet.
But years later, after some trial and error, YouTube's online economy picked up pace. The company set its business model apart from traditional TV by leaning on the commercial appeal of its stars. Millions of channels started making money. Last year, YouTube made more than $28 billion in advertising and had 2 million creators in its ads program. But unlike in 2007, YouTube has some serious competitors. TikTok has emerged as a defining app of a generation. The short-form video platform loved by Gen Z was the most downloaded app of 2021 and has surged to 1 billion plus global users.
I know for sure there's more money going into TikTok than there was 2 years ago. A lot of advertisers want to go wherever the teens are. It is like the hot thing, and advertisers want to be associated with the hot thing. TikTok just
You're still watching the big story here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos is visiting Tacloban City to lead the 9th anniversary commemoration of the onslaught of Super Typhoon Yolanda. Marcos Jr. visited the Holy Cross Memorial Chapel, where most of the victims of the Super Typhoon were buried. In 2013, Yolanda claimed the lives of more than 6,000 people, but the president believes there could have been more fatalities. In his visit, President Marcos underscored the importance of preemptive evacuations ahead of storms to minimize casualties.
We come here, we commemorate, because if we no longer commemorate, their memory dies, and it is only up to us to keep that memory alive.
Tomorrow is the first day of this year's bar examinations, so motorists are warned of road closures around the exam venues. Josh Camo with the story.
Starting Wednesday, the bar exams will be taken simultaneously in various locations nationwide. In Manila, San Beda and De La Salle University will host the exams. Road closures will be implemented to give way to bar takers. Family and friends are only allowed to drop off examinees since no parking will be provided outside the venues. The Philippine National Police assures the public that enough personnel will be deployed.
We are going to deploy 300 personnel para sa dalawang school. Then lahat po yun, sir, may shifting. But we will give emphasis doon sa pagpasok nila at paglabas ng school po.
Roadside vendors and anything that will cause noise are banned within the 500-meter radius of the exam venues.
Nagbigay ng warning. If ever na mag-insist sila, talagang ikukuha natin sila. No vendors sa area po, sir.
On the other hand, some commuters are still unaware about the road closures for the bar exams. But they say that they are willing to adjust.
Baka mas maaga na lang ako umalis siguro kasi may work din yung husband ko eh.
Kung isasara nila ito, meron pa namang LRT, may iba pang way papunta sa pupuntahan ko.
The 2022 bar exams will push through despite calls for its postponement following the impact of recent typhoons. However, 2022 bar exam chairperson and Associate Justice Benjamin Caguioa said that delaying this year's exams will have implications next year. Caguioa also noted that examinees may refund the bar fee if they decide not to push through with the exam. Around 10,000 examinees are expected to take the bar exams nationwide on November 9, 13, 16, and 20. For News 5, Josh Camo, We Are One News.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. I'm Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via our Signal Play app. So make a free account now. That's at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Danny Laurel. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.